Yo, 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 what is going on, Patriot peeps? It is your full time scientist, fuller time sports fan with the father of Patriots Nation, Aiden Hauser. What is going on, everybody? We are we are now on the other side of the NFL draft, and there's a lot to talk about. The Patriots did a lot of work, a lot of good work, at least as I see it. Before we go into picks, what is your overall thoughts? Like, how do you generally feel about what the Patriots did?
I think every year I kind of come into the draft or out of the draft like hopeful of well, they are the professionals. They know more than me. Like maybe this year's different. Like trying to hype myself on some of the guys. Um, like I did that when we drafted Mac Jones. It's like I don't love him as a player, but maybe they know what they're doing, sort of thing. But like after this one, I'm excited. Like I do think there's a potential to be honestly one of the up and coming teams. I think there's a case to be made that like New England is the most improved team over the offseason. And just with
I don't see how you can't make that case. There was, they plugged up so many of their biggest gaps. They needed that number one receiver. They got Diggs. They needed, we'll talk about this more, but they needed a left tackle to plug up the offensive line. They got Campbell. They also got a lot of acquisitions on the interior offensive line. They made their defense more threatening. And then just so much positive change on the front office end of things. Like, provided that Drake May kind of continues to evolve, and I feel like switching from Alex Van Pelt to Josh McDaniels is a much better first to second year change than switching from Josh McDaniels to Matt Patricia. So
yeah,
hopefully he doesn't have the same fate that Mac Jones has. If I'm Drake May, I'm watching this offseason, I'm watching this draft and being like, God, I'm excited about my new teammates.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I fully agree. I feel like this team has, at the very least, I think this team is going to be annoying for the Bills.
hmm
And I'm not going to go so far as to say I think they'll win the division. I don't, but I think there's wild card potential in this team. And for the first time, I don't feel like I'm having to lie through my teeth as I say that.
I don't. Yeah, I know I said last year I don't get how we can be worse and somehow we were. Like we've improved everywhere and significantly. Like McDaniel's is a way better than I don't even remember his name. It's
Alex
blanking.
Van
Oh yeah, Van Pelt. Mayo is horrible. I mean, and then like the improvements on both sides of the ball, we killed it in free agency, got studs, and it was all defense. And then I think we were talking about like, well, hopefully they do a heavy offense draft, and then they did. So it's like,
Yeah.
and they didn't reach for guys. Like they didn't go, oh, we're gonna reach for this guy we really like, even though he's a third round grade. We're gonna take him at the end of the first or whatever. They're like, I don't know. They just
It was
stuck.
all just intelligent use of their capital. That's
What's
how I
that?
felt. It was all just intelligent use of their capital. Their free agency, they moved around their cap space in a way that made sense. And I think for the first time in a long time, I didn't look at any of our draft picks and be like, I'm having trouble justifying why this pick was made.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it wasn't the pick I would make, for the most part, it was, yeah, I can see it. It makes sense. There is clear logic behind this pick. It is making a market improvement to the team in this way.
Yeah.
I think overall, when I look at the entire suite of draft picks, I probably the only comment I might have is that maybe if I were to do this, I would have drafted a cornerback a little bit earlier than a Mr. Irrelevant. But we also addressed the cornerback position in free agency, so it's less of a need.
Yeah.
Um, so let's go. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's start with Will Campbell. I know if you're speaking for me, I was on the Stadium Rant draft stream with a couple picks earlier, and my heart sank when I saw Jacksonville trade up to 2. because I knew that was the writing on the wall for Travis Hunter. I was praying that the Giants would select Shadir Sanders. They didn't. It was Abdul Carter, and that left us to, do we make the very obvious but right choice, or do we do something stupid? Mm-hmm. And we made the very obvious but right choice.
Mm-hmm.
I guess left choice.
Okay, that's corny.
Hey man, you roll with the punches. But yeah, I think it was a simple equation. There's a great left tackle available at 4. The unbelievable bona fide talents are not there, but Will Campbell is a great player. We have a huge need at left tackle. That position has been a revolving door. We have a young quarterback that we're trying to protect. Make the smart pick, and we did.
Uh-huh. And it's like, yeah, we've known about this for a while. He has the perfect attitude, saying he's going to fight and die to protect Drake May is awesome. Like, you could tell he just loves the game. And I don't know. I really don't think there's we've talked about him enough even before he got drafted. It was almost assumed you'd be a Patriot, that I don't really know what much more to say.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people knock on him, not on his short arms, and he could bump inside to guard if his arms are too short, and it's obviously we don't want that to happen, but even if that does happen, and he is an all pro left guard, that's still an improvement to our line.
That's also very true. It's not like guard is an unbelievably solid position for us, and we know he can be a great guard. And nothing I have seen on tape has shown me issues with the hand size. I know there's a size difference and speed difference in the NFL, but he's very smart with the way he places his hands. And there's also the fact that I feel like people will quabble about the tiniest differences in measurements, but the guy's not a T-Rex. It's not it's not like he's going like this. It's a workable arm size if you coach it right and you figure out the right strategy. And yeah, from the interviews, I was like, all right, this is a really good all-around hardworking kid. But I also hate that I'm at the age where I'm now these players are younger than me. Hate that. Despise it.
Yeah, 21-year-old's a kid. You're like, oh.
But he is. He's a good kid. But I think I saw what I was missing for me in the pre-draft interviews was the fire. I was like, all right, he's a good guy. He's a down to earth player that matches the vibe. But what I saw in the post-draft interview was that fire, that I will stop at nothing to protect my quarterback. And I'm like, that's a Patriot right there. That's a player that, whether it's Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells, Jerome Mayo, Mike Vrabel, it's the Patriot way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really did enjoy seeing that, a bit of that new color from him, especially when the color that we've had in the past from our left tackles is, hey, let me make way. Let me make way for you to get to Drake May.
Oh, what's that? Max Crosby need to come. Oh yeah. Come on by.
Yeah, come. I'll give you the tour. Here's our backfield. Here's Drake May. Why don't you give him a walk?
Yeah. Get to know each other.
And with Will Campbell, it's gonna be no. He's gonna be the world's best bouncer to the club that is the Patriots backfield. None shall pass.
Yeah, that's only.
Yeah. But like you said, I think this was the least surprised I've ever been at a Patriots draft pick. I very much knew what was coming. It was more I feel like you have to make this pick. There are 6 options that I am really, really afraid that you're going to choose, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So we move on to the more interesting stuff. We have our left tackle. This was a spot at which my prediction was Will Johnson. there was also a part of me that kind of wanted Luther Burden. I was not expecting Trevion Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean I was disappointed with the pick. Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts first.
I love it. I don't think like if it was more of like maybe like a Judkins type, I think I would have been a little more iffy. But Henderson is like, yeah, he's a running back, but the guy can score with like limited touches, and is a great pass catcher and a really good like pass blocker. So you just take away the running back tag label or whatever, and you're like, okay, we just got an offensive threat who's like just a phenomenal like athlete. And like, yeah, he's a running back, and yeah, we've Ramondre, but like we're adding somebody who can make big plays and take a lot of pressure off of Drake May.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like, especially in a Josh McDaniels offense, it's never just about, oh, you're a running back, you're going to be a running back. McDaniels loves his versatile running backs. He has for a while. We've had our James Whites, our Stephen Ridleys, our Danny Woodheads. Even recently, like the Rex Burkheads, like people that can do a little bit of everything. I don't know if we've had a running back that can block this well in recent memory, or really that I can remember. Because the pass catching threat is obvious. He's a See, the thing with Trevion Henderson that I like is that it's not that he's an incredibly fast runner, but it's, if you watch some of his plays in slow motion, it's like, even though he's running at you with a head of steam, he's like watching, he's looking for the gaps, he's like shimmying around a little bit. Like, he has excellent spatial awareness. And like, I'm a big advocate of the fact that spatial awareness is one of the biggest things as a skill position. Know where you are, or know where you're supposed to be, know who's in your way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And like the little adjustments he makes with his shoulders, with his legs as he's running across the field, love it. And like it's interesting. He's not just your typical like pass catching running back that'll catch a screen. Like, the guy will run routes. He will have design plays for him to be function as a wideout on a play.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be plays where he's designed to function as the fullback. I think Josh McDaniels will make great use of that.
Yeah.
Let's actually, I kind of want to go. Maybe this is because it's finals week right now, and I'm thinking in terms of the letters. Let's go back to Will Campbell and give a letter grade on that, and then let's also give one on Trevion Henderson.
I'll give Will Campbell like, I don't know, a B+. I think I would say A based on just like that was just the right, I don't know, like the pick it was, or like the type of player they are.
I think it's kind of a combination of both. Like,
I'd only say B+ because I wish we would have had Travis Hunter, but if he was.
Yeah.
If he was never in my mind, there was a chance that he was going to be a Patriot, I would say Campbell's an A. Like, we needed to do that. It was better than just like, oh, we'll take Mason Graham or Reach or somebody. Like, that was just the pick that needed to be done.
Yeah. I'm going to give an A- because, there was not a better pick to be made there. We did not have a better player available for us.
Mm-hmm.
So the gap between an A- and A+ goes to the messing around that Gerard Mayo and Joe Milton chose to do in that final week, deciding to do what we hadn't been able to do in any of the games that mattered, which was win.
Right.
But look, we had the fourth pick. That was a reality that mattered, and we made the best pick we could have made with the fourth pick. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on Henderson?
I would just say B+. Again, I think Henderson's a tremendous player. But skill-wise, I would say he's like for sure like among the top 3. I think I'd rather have him over Judkins. I go back and forth, but I think B+ just because it was such a deep running back class that we probably could have gotten another like decent running back in like 4th, even 5th round, and could have honestly just maybe got a Luther Burden or traded traded back and got somebody different or get another pick or even address the offensive line one more time with one of our earlier picks. But I'm not complaining about it. I'm not like, what are we doing? This is stupid. Like, I'm happy. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a solid B. I think it was a par pick for the position. Like, I look at Travion Henderson's film and I'm like, 238 feels about right.
Yeah.
I can definitely see what you're saying about the fact that it was a really deep running back class. I think the reason that this still makes some sense to me is that it's just because he can do so much more than like a lot of the other running backs in the class are very traditional. They're running backs and that's what they do kind of thing. The Pats love versatility. Josh McDaniels especially loves versatility. He loves players that can do multiple things, and because he can scheme with it. Like Alex Van Pelt and like the whole roulette of offensive coordinators we've had since McDaniels was last year wouldn't know how to make use of what Henderson can do. But when you have a player that you can line up as a running back, wide receiver, or fullback on any given play, McDaniels is going to have his fun with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of gotta like. He gives me James White vibes, but the blocking is of a higher quality, honestly.
Yeah. He's bigger.
Yeah.
I think he's bigger than James White.
I don't know. I don't know if he's taller than James White, but he's definitely. I think he definitely weighs more. And yeah, I mean, like there were. Again, it was not the pick that I would have made, but it was not. But it was also not a pick that I looked at and I was like, "What are you doing here?" If anything, I kind of like the change in philosophy that gets you to make, offensive big swings in the first. I mean, their first 4 picks were offense. Very, very different than the previous era of Patriots drafting.
Yeah. Yeah, attacking offense all that often in the first few rounds is unheard of in the old days.
Yeah. Moving on to the 3rd round, Kyle Williams out of Washington State.
I think I would give this one an A, honestly. I think this is a great spot for him. I was telling some of my buddies, were like, oh, who are you looking at in day 2? And Kyle Williams is one of the guys I mentioned. I mentioned both of the Iowa State receivers, which I think Jalen Knoll could have also been the guy I picked at the same spot. I wouldn't have minded. But I really like the pick. I really like the kind of player he is. I was watching Wolf and Vrabel talk about him, and they love the guy. Like everybody here loves him or loves you is what they told him. And even there was Steve Smith Sr. talks about very highly about Kyle Williams and says that he sees a lot of himself in Williams, which is also a huge thing. He's got that dog mentality, it seems.
Yeah, I enjoyed hearing that from Steve Smith because Steve Smith's a player I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah.
Just plays the game the right way. Very difficult to cover. I mean, from everything I've watched in highlights and things, he was a nightmare for corners.
Mm-hmm.
Able to make contested catches, but also very quick, able to get separation. He has a large repertoire in the kind of routes he runs. Obviously, huge uptick in the level of competition for him. Washington State schedules haven't been all that challenging last couple of years, but you play the corners that the opponents bring to you, and for me, he was probably the most underrated wide receiver in this entire draft.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to, I think, Efton Chisholm. He was because I don't think we're gonna have time for undrafted people. He was an undrafted wide receiver we took and my goodness, his tape is awesome.
Yeah.
This obviously it's one of those things that we're not going to be able to tell until he hits the NFL field. But I don't know. I felt that with Polk and Baker last year, I was having to like. There are players that I will have to like convince myself. I'll have to egg myself on to like their highlight tape. But Kyle Williams I loved immediately. And he knows how to take a large load as well. It's not just a few flash in the pan plays. He's consistent game to game. 70 receptions for over 1,000 yards, 14 touchdowns last year. He did it week in and week out. And we're going to need him to do it week in and week out. This is a guy that, at least based on the talent that I see here, we'll see how training camp goes. I could see him on the field week 1.
Yeah. And it's an open, like, even though it's kind of a crowded, I'll not even say crowded, but just a receiver room that there's like zero identity. Like there's a chance for him to like certainly emerge as one of the top guys.
Yeah. Moving on to later in round 3, Jared Wilson from Georgia.
I like this pick. Again, not a flashy pick, but like just a solid starter, a guy who I think David Andrews went to Florida too, or Georgia too. So it would be a nice passing of the torch. And then like I want to say I don't think he had like any sacks on him last year. But yeah, like he can either compete with Bradbury or no one's gonna pressure him to like be the guy right away. Like he can develop, and once Bradbury is off of his 1-year deal, like I think this is a guy who can certainly be a center for us for a really long time.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, this is like I was thinking about giving this an A or A plus because
I think I give it an A.
I watched a lot of his tape, and I mean, I was even noticing because I watch a lot of SEC football. I was just like, Georgia doesn't seem to have any problems at center whatsoever. This is a guy that plays the best of the best in terms of the defensive lines that he faces, and just rock solid.
So I mean, I want to say he was the number 1 ranked center too. So I think we got the number 1 ranked left tackle and the number 1 ranked center.
That's unbelievable. For me, when I was watching the draft, this was the pick that I had my eyes on when did we trade up into the back end of the 3rd? Is that what happened?
I think we did.
Yeah.
We traded back in the beginning of the 3rd. So we must have traded up at some point with an extra pick.
And I was like, and when I saw that we were on the clock, I was like, I hope that we did this so we could get Jared Wilson later. I was surprised that he was still available. I know there's a big disparity in the relative importances of interior and exterior offensive line, but I feel like center is probably the most important interior offensive line position.
Mm-hmm.
The time it takes between when the ball is snapped and when his hands are up and in position is next to zero.
Yeah.
And again, he's doing it against the best of the best in terms of the defensive tackles and what he faced in college.
Right.
So and like with Bradbury, I'm like, he always felt like a transition piece. I was like, he's worse than Andrews. He's better than whoever we threw out in Andrews' absence. But at least from what I see on tape, he has the potential to be the center of the future for the Patriots. We'll, obviously, again, with all these things, we see how it ends up. But I can only go based on what we've seen in college. And I definitely like it. Yeah, you're right. The last center that we drafted was David Andrews from Georgia. We also drafted Isaiah Wynn, so that, less good draft picks from Georgia, but he also wasn't a center. So hopefully we really know how to pick those great centers in Georgia.
Yeah.
Fantastic pick, I feel. Moving on to round 4, Craig Woodson from Cal.
I'll give this one like a B minus. Like I want to say, I don't know. I just know there were other safeties and DBs on like people's boards. I guess not New England's that were ranked higher. He's kind of a different. Seems like kind of a different type of player, like a little more of a like athletic specimen rather than like kind of just a big burly safeties that we have. I guess he's more explosive, so I guess it makes sense. And it seems like he's, from what I've heard, a really smart player. But I really haven't even heard his name before until we drafted him.
Yeah.
So like the little bit that I watched, like he's just kind of a different safety than we've really ever had or have had in the past few years.
That's where I'm at. I would give C plus B minus, but with B plus A minus potential. He's aggressive. I feel like he's very much a ball hawk. He has the aggression to sometimes go in the backfield. Like you will see him try to make those tackles in the backfield, but also go for the pass breakups and interceptions. He's kind of got one of those. He's kind of got a go for broke kind of style where it could either result in an interception or it could result in him getting blown by for a touchdown. So it's one of those things that the Vrabel and the defensive staff is going to have to manage. I don't see him coming on the field in week 1, unless it's as a special teamer. But, with some of the uncertainty around Peppers, it's not a bad thing to have some safety depth. But I think Peppers and Mapu and Duggar are going to be our primary safeties, and he's going to squarely be in the back. I mean, it's probably even close between him and Schooler.
Sure.
But there are definitely some good things from him. I like aggression if it can be controlled, and so I do like his intent. I enjoy the number of times I see him in the backfield on tape. Like I feel like the Patriots have always liked that kind of like, yes, they're in the secondary, but they want to be all-purpose defenders. So, definitely some good things. Josh Farmer from FSU.
He shouldn't have fallen that far from what I understand. So everyone's been saying that he's like he was a steal, a little more of like a developmental but like athletic defensive tackle. So I'll give it like a B plus or like an A. Like we didn't need it, but like there's no harm in just adding good players, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Like why not get even better than what we were before? Like make what's already strong even stronger. It's like I don't mind that. So I don't know if he's a little more athletic and like instead of being a run stopper, like is an interior like rusher and could get to the quarterback, then like I'm all for it.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of his explosiveness. He has that ability to kind of blow through a block on if he sets up right. I feel like I feel like a lot of the players we drafted have a lot of intent. It's because I feel like one of the things that's plagued the Patriots defense in the past is just passiveness. You just kind of do your assignment. You try to penetrate through, but he has the looks of a player who's intent on getting to the quarterback every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised he was available that late. And I feel like it was one of those things where I was like, maybe not exactly the player we needed there, but you saw a player of his caliber available this late in the draft, and so you had to go with it. And I can totally get behind that. Obviously with Milton Williams, we got the player we needed for the defensive line, but we don't know what the deal is with Christian Barmore as far as his health. Those blood clot things just they'll be pesky. They'll come back sometimes when you're least expecting it. You'll think that you have Christian Barmore back, and you won't. I mean, that is what happened at some point last year. And so, given all of that, no harm in getting some depth there. Braden Swinson, LSU.
I think it's another really similar thing to Farmer. Is like this guy should not have lasted like the 5th, like maybe the 3rd, but just like a productive edge rusher who I think was among the top in like pressures, if I remember. And then played in the SEC, teammate of Will Campbell. Like that's cool, but I mean, just
maybe he must have had some overlap with Booty as well.
Yeah, it's true. But I don't know, just to like we're not like even in the 4th and 5th round, like those guys are steals. Like they were really productive, like good college players with good traits. It wasn't like one of these rounds where people start just picking their guys that they just really like, but it's like they're just finding good players. So I mean, Braden Swinson being in the 5th round is awesome.
Yeah, and this feels like a crazy thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I do get Judon vibes from his highlight tape.
Sure.
They have similar styles. That kind of linebacker edge rusher hybrid of like intermediate size but great power, intelligent. I especially enjoy that he can go sideline to sideline. He's not just about sticking to his side. He can make plays all across the field. I think he even had a couple picks.
Okay.
In his LSU tape, so that's always nice to see. Has the ability to kind of adjust to what he sees. Maybe we bring out the red sleeves. I don't know.
That'd be awesome. Bring him back.
Maybe we have the red sleeves as like a rite of passage. You have to
earn it.
Can be like a weekly designation.
Well, if it's a weekly designation, then Behringer is going to have it every week.
That's true. Maybe best player on the defensive line.
Yeah, which would also still probably be Behringer.
Yeah. The maybe red gloves because of his whole routine.
Right.
But yeah, again, another like. And I think defensive end is one of those positions where I was like, we do have a full unit there, but I also feel like I'm not 110% confident in anybody we have there right now. Like, I've seen flashes from everybody, but there's nobody that has like the reliability that a Judon had. So there's no harm in stocking up there. And again, does not have the look of a 5th round player. I don't see him as a starter, but I could absolutely see him as someone who gets some playing time.
Yeah.
He'll be behind Anferny, and I mean currently he's behind Chason, but I don't think that'll last.
No.
I think he'll very much be the primary backup for Anthony Jennings.
Right.
And it's good when you can have a guy like Anthony Jennings rotate out every so often and see what this guy can do. So yeah, great pick. I would say B+ more because like, Yeah, there's some other picks I could have seen there, but
Yeah, I'll just give it an A because I feel like just value wise,
yeah,
killer.
I like that after the Will Campbell pick. Honestly, they kind of took the best player available approach, and despite that, they were still able to hit a lot of different positions.
Yeah.
Borregales, Miami.
I'm excited about this one too. Like we actually have a kicker again. We have a good kicker. We drafted a productive college kicker and not in the 4th round. Like I'll take it.
Yeah,
and honestly, he's like the kicker that I've only ever heard coverage about. So I'm pretty sure he was the top rated kicker, but
he was the only kicker in this draft class that I like actually cared about.
Yeah.
I think for me it was if this guy's not available come like 6th round, we can address kicker in undrafted free agency or just see what we can do with Parker Roma. That'll be an interest. Parker Roma has been around for a little bit, so it's going to be an interesting little competition. I think simply because of the youth, I think Borregales will come out on top of that.
Yeah.
But we also know how things can go with kickers. Like I said before we started the pod, we do not need another tank commander. So, unlike Ryland's job, which was to miss as often as he can, and he did that beautifully.
Yeah.
Borregales' job will actually be to make his kicks. I still feel two ways about us getting rid of Sly in the first place, but I will say that as cool as his beard was and as strong as his leg was, he would also miss a lot of gimmies. Like you'd see, really, this guy almost made it from 68 and then missed from 39. Like, I would rather have a kicker that can consistently make it from 45 to 55 than one that can potentially make it from 65 but also potentially miss from 40.
Right. So yeah, I'm excited for him. I mean, I don't think he has the strongest leg in the world, but like he's accurate. NFL says like the strengths it's talking about like he has a make rate of 86% over 4 years and hit 75% from 50 plus over the last 2 years.
Yeah. And I think given the draft we had had up till this point, I was like, all right, we've done enough so far that I'm okay if we want to draft a kicker at this point.
I agree too. It's not like, oh shoot, like we could have maybe got a developmental piece. Like I feel like we did such a good job. Yeah, like you said, that like this was a fine spot to take one and get the best one.
Because when we had drafted Ryland, I was very much like, I don't think we have assembled the type of draft class that warrants using a pick on a kicker at this early in the game. But I mean, you've seen the discussion that we've had so far. It's been a phenomenal 7 picks before we went with a kicker.
Mm-hmm.
That is totally acceptable for me.
Yeah.
Marcus Bryant, tackle from Missouri.
I haven't watched much of his tape, but I do know that I want to say he played left tackle over Membu. I couldn't remember if Membu got hurt or if they swapped him over to right tackle or something, but that's all I really know about him. I really don't know much. But I mean, I think just from a logistics standpoint, getting depth, especially at tackle, is just good with how horrible we've been the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always one of those things where it's like, sure, especially if he ends up having a phenomenal training camp and Will Campbell ends up being better suited for guard, like great to have depth there.
Yeah.
And I think he was Membu moved to right, and that's kind of what put him in the left tackle spot. But like, I think he's one of those players that I think his draft class would have. It can be really injurious to your draft stock to have a more talented looking player at your position.
Yeah.
I feel like his tape, his experience. I mean, Missouri as an SEC team played some of the very best, and his, I did watch his highlight tape, and I was pretty impressed. He doesn't quite have the talent and agility that Will Campbell does, but he also has really good size.
Mm-hmm.
And he does have good instincts. So yeah, I'm happy with this pick. I feel like he is probably more of a fifth or sixth round talent that was overshadowed by a teammate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an expert on long snappers.
Yeah.
I've gathered from his tape, he's good at snapping the ball in a long word fashion.
Yes, and it spirals well.
Yeah, it in all of the highlights, in all the highlight tape, it went to the person he was trying to get it to. Really not sure what else you're supposed to do with a long snapper.
Right.
I was a little surprised that we used a draft pick on a long snapper, to be perfectly honest. It makes me wonder whether there was any sign from the rest of the league that the Patriots got that he was not going to be available in free agency, because I was like, I look at every position and I was like, yeah, there's some good long snappers in this draft, but I'm like, I feel like we could also just wait and get a good long snapper. This pick's gonna get a C for me for that reason.
Sure.
His tape is cool. Seems like a good player. I'm just, would he, that hypothetical of would he have been available, especially this was like 6 picks before Mr. Irrelevant.
Oh, I didn't realize
So
it was that quick. We could have probably just waited till free agency, huh?
Yeah, or we could have waited for Mr. Irrelevant.
Or whatever, yeah.
Like, I have a suspicion that either him or someone about as good would have been available. And so that's my only problem here. But, Cardona has had injury issues, and that was a position that we needed to address. So maybe that was the philosophy there. It was like, we need to make sure we get a good long snapper.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to know what Belichick thinks of him, because he's the expert on long snappers. He knows that position better than about anybody. But yeah, I can't believe we've been talking for almost 2 minutes about a long snapper.
That's 2 minutes more than I would ever want to.
I'm watching his tape. I mean, the ball left his hands and it went to the guy that he was trying to get it to. I'm not sure what else long snappers really do.
Yeah.
I think it's time I watch that talk again from that. I need to watch that 10-minute rant from Belichick about long snappers to get hyped up about this pick. Maybe that'll change my grade to a B, but right now it's a C. And finally, the Mr. Irrelevant. I was so glad that we got Mr. Irrelevant this year. I'm like, I really enjoy what they do with the whole 257 jersey and the whole shindig there.
Yeah.
But hey, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, this guy could be the Brock Purdy of cornerbacks.
Honestly, when I watched this tape, I was shocked that he went so late. This is a cornerback with linebacker instincts. I am unsure about how good he actually is at the defensive back portion of his job, but extremely aggressive, phenomenal hitter, pretty quick. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets more playing time than one might think. As far as 7th round picks, he's also behind. We also have Isaiah Bolden, who's, and given that injury he suffered against the Packers, I would like him to get his turn before Kobe does. But I mean, this is a guy who knows how to get after it. At the very least, his tape is better than what I would have expected from a Mr. Irrelevant.
Sure.
But there's the whole, I'll call it highlight tape mirage, because like I think you can always cherry pick really nice plays from anybody.
Right.
I do like his hitting form. I do like his aggressiveness. Good pick. I'm gonna give it an A minus. I mean, I'm not sure what more to. It's pick 257 for the two. If that's the 257th best player in this draft, then it's a great draft class.
Right.
And there we have it. That was the draft. It's nice. Like, when, if we were to do this recap and like when I and Pat, the previous host from Gillette Gazette, were recapping the last draft, we didn't go all the way to the bottom. Because after a couple of picks, it was like,
Okay.
yeah, whatever. I feel like there was something to talk about with pretty much every player in the draft class, which kind of goes to show that every pick had some intelligent reason. Every pick made some sense.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this draft an A minus, with the potential of getting to an A plus by the end of the season.
I'll give it an A minus as well. I mean, it's not just us being homers, but I mean, there's been a lot of like reputable sites and like experts saying that like we killed it in the draft, and a lot of people saying it was their favorite draft. So I know it's not us just being like, oh yeah, like our team did the best, but like a lot of people agree with us and like that we killed it.
Yeah.
Which is the first time I think I've ever heard that the Patriots killed it in the draft.
And it's especially like you drafted a kicker and a long snapper, and you can still feel good about the draft. That's saying something.
Yeah.
We did well enough in the rest of the draft that we could afford to make those two picks. And yeah, it was just, this team now has a lot of depth in a lot of important positions. And positions where last year we had to go to the bottom of the barrel of the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like we are, whereas last year, like, we would be rostering players that every other team would cut. I feel like it might end up being the other way around this year.
Mm-hmm.
We might have the most impressive practice squad in the entire NFL. And it was nice before. I think that Kyle Williams. And yeah, actually, I already kind of revealed my answer, but my answer to this question is Kyle Williams. But I'm going to ask what your favorite pick of this draft was.
I would probably say Kyle Williams as well, but to avoid just being a copycat and boring, I'll say Will Campbell.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. Like, we just got the left tackle of the future. We got the guy who's going to keep May upright. Like, that's a huge need. Even just buying him like an extra second in the pocket is going to make such a big difference. And then to have a guy that people are so like they speak so highly of him, like he's got the tenacity and like nastiness, but like he's also like really smart. Everyone says he's like a coach, a real student of the game. Like that's cool. I'm glad we didn't take like a guy who's like, yeah, like he's athletic but just a little bit raw. Like Campbell is not a raw prospect by any means. He's very refined, but it's just can he keep up against just the next level of competition?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I was already maybe 80% sold on the Will Campbell pick from the beginning, and then when he interviewed, that changed to 100 very quickly.
Yeah.
With Williams, I feel like he was the most underrated receiver in the entire class. I feel like there's just not a lot of visibility when you play at Washington State, but he is unbelievably skilled, really versatile. He can go up for those contested catches, but his specialty is using his speed and route running to get separation.
And like he ran a 4.4, which is fast, but like man, he looked like a low 4.3 guy. Like at times when he got the ball in his hand, like he just looked so fast on the field.
Yeah, and that's where like again for beyond a certain threshold, it's all about that game speed.
And like his game speed, like you watch him play, it's like geez, like he looks fast. You know, you got those guys who are like, oh yeah, they ran a good time, but they don't think they're moving like he does.
Yeah. And speaking of 40 times, I know we've talked about Restrepo a couple of times. It was a little sad to see that he didn't get drafted. I would love to see him prove people wrong.
Did you see where he got signed though?
Yeah. He's gonna get passes from Cam Ward again.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool.
It is. And I have not had time to go through too many of the undrafted free agents. So far, what I've seen, I've liked, but we can talk more about that next week. But overall, great. Yeah, overall, great to this draft in A-. I most importantly, I think if I were to grade this offseason so far, and I think we can assume that it's mostly done. Like the acquisitions part of the offseason.
Yeah.
A or A plus.
Mm-hmm.
If you take it as a unit, you take what we needed to do and what we did. Front office, free agency, draft. Check, check, check.
Yeah.
What more can you do?
Win games. Start the football season. Start winning games.
There we go. This is the first time that I don't have this like dread of actually watching the team on the field, because I was like, oh, I don't know what this is gonna look like. I feel like it'll be ugly. Now I'm like, I want to see these guys come together and play as a unit as fast as I possibly can.
Like last year, I wanted to really watch it because I'm like, I just want to see what Drake May does. But it's like now it's off to the races. Like I think it's gonna actually instead of just watching Drake May, it's gonna be a lot of fun players to watch. I think.
Yeah. It was also, as Shedeur kept dropping, there was a part of me that was like, oh, are we going to see him available in the 5th round and waste a pick on him? Like because I was watching when we drafted Swinson, and I think by then Sanders hadn't gotten drafted yet. And I was just like, don't do it.
Oh.
I know he's way better than a 5th round pick, but don't do it.
We already have Josh Dobbs. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, like Josh Dobbs is the guy I want backing up Drake May.
Yeah.
Down, salt to the earth, like good quarterback, clearly a lot worse than Drake May, but a good backup quarterback. Yeah. And yes, I also believe that Sanders is clearly a lot worse than Drake May. But do you know who doesn't believe that Sanders is clearly a lot worse than Drake May? Sanders.
Yeah.
I need for once, I want a backup quarterback who knows their place.
Yeah, I know.
Joe Milton didn't know his place. He was like, I want my moment. I'm going to go out there and ruin everything.
Yeah.
And Bailey Zappi was constantly being a thorn in the side, constantly saying in private press conferences, well, I believe I should be the starter. So much friction in that locker room between him and Mac Jones. I feel both of them were worse off for it. Neither of them were good sports about, being benched for the other.
If we could have, in that time, made neither of them the starter, I would have done it.
Yeah. We should have just been like, you both are in timeout. We're putting Brian Hoyer in for the rest of the season. That would have been totally fine with me.
Trade for Jarrett Stidham back.
Ah, yes. Stidham's such an interesting case. Such a great arm and so bad at using it.
He could have been good. I had hope.
But we have hope now.
Yes.
You don't need to worry about the Stidhams of the world when you've got Drake May. And I'm really excited to see what amazing North Carolinian prospect that Bill Belichick has waiting for us next year.
Some I don't know. So there's some Julian Edelmans there for sure.
Yeah, that Efton Chisholm, that wide receiver that we that we signed as an undrafted free agency. There are some Edelman vibes there.
Yeah.
There's so much talent on this team, which is not something that I have said in a long, long time.
I know. It feels almost weird.
Get excited with us, Patriot Station. We're going to be here every week, and our mood's going to be a lot better now. There's excitement in Foxborough. Keep watching us every week on Tuesdays to share in our excitement. Let us know your own thoughts. Follow us on our Twitter handles, at Survora for me, at Aiden Hauser for Aiden. Follow at City Marine HQ on all of our platforms. And until next week, we're the Gazette.